What's happening, Internet fam? So I just wanted to talk for a minute about the fires in Northern California and Oregon and everywhere else. And the simple fact is, we have the solution. We've had the solution for a long time. And no, it's not this nerd, although this nerd is going to tell us some things probably in this video about the thorium reactor. Now, a lot of people are afraid of nuclear. They're angry about nuclear. They're upset about the nuclear waste and everything else. And I get it. The nuclear industry has been one of the most destructive forces to all of nature since it was invented. Now, the inventor of the nuclear reactor, though, invented another type of reactor after the solid fuel uranium reactor, which was really only designed to be in submarines, nuclear submarines for the military. He said as soon as we were going to scale up, we absolutely needed a different design because of the danger of meltdowns. And sure enough, we've seen with Chernobyl, Fukushima, 3 Mile Island, San Onofre, and several other nuclear disasters that the solid fuel uranium kind is very dangerous and very bad for you. But he invented another kind later called the liquid fluoride thorium reactor. And the liquid fluoride thorium reactor is walk-away safe. There's absolutely no way for it to melt down. You have to actually keep running power to it to keep the nuclear reaction going. If the power gets cut, say in the event of a tsunami or whatever, then instantly the fuel starts to cool down and there's no possibility for a nuclear meltdown. So it's much, much safer than solid fuel uranium reactors, the kind that we use now. The reason we use the solid fuel uranium reactors that we use now is because Richard Nixon needed to pad his way to the White House, and the uranium lobby in California gave him a lot of money. And so all of the nuclear disasters that we've had globally now are directly a result of the corruption of Richard Nixon. Now, what does this have to do with the wildfires in Northern California, Southern Oregon, and pretty much everywhere right now? Well, the reason why the fires are happening is because it's so dry. And one of the reasons it's so dry is because we pull all of the fresh water from Eastern California and use it. We pull it from an aqueduct called the Department of Water and Power. And we pull it via aqueduct and put it, ship it to LA so that LA can have water. So we are actually artificially drying out the entire region by instantly shipping all the fresh water right back down to the ocean in LA. Sure, it's, watering golf courses and lawns in LA, but as soon as it's done there, it goes right back in the ocean. So we're actually speeding up the water cycle and skipping all the fresh water that should be keeping all of California much, much wetter than it is. There's actually supposed to be a giant inland lake in the Owens Valley called the Owens Lake. And as of right now, the Owens Lake is pretty much empty, and there is no moisture at all in Northern California and Southern Oregon, especially in the summertime, towards the end of the summer, early fall, late summer, early fall. And that's when we see these, huge catastrophic fires. And they did invent the thorium reactor to be in a nuclear-powered bomber, which was insane, but luckily they never built that. However, they did discover, and here's a picture of Alvin Weinberg right here. This is him right here. This guy. Oh, not this guy. This is Kurt Sorensen. Great guy. But Alvin Weinberg did invent the thorium reactor, and he said we should absolutely switch all of our nuclear power over to the thorium reactor. And instead, we continued to use uranium solid fuel, and as a result, we had Fukushima, Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, San Onofre, many other terrible catastrophes. Thorium reactors are much more difficult to weaponize. It's much more harder to make a thorium reactor. This is Alvin Weinberg right here. This is the guy who invented the first nuclear reactor, and then he also was involved in making the thorium reactor. And the thorium reactor could give us infinite free water for almost no cost at all. If we built modular thorium reactors all along the West Coast, we could have infinite fresh water, and we could not only refill Owens Lake and we could actually make California much wetter than it is naturally, and we could avoid all these fires, all these devastating fires and also help promote more biodiversity by helping the overall environment grow more plants, grow more um, fresh organic produce. I mean, water is all over the planet. I mean, we've got the giant Pacific Ocean right there, and we're not using any of that water right now. In fact, the water that is coming from the Pacific Ocean, evaporating and then raining back over the Sierras, etc., we're then immediately piping back to LA and then out into the ocean. So we are actually very much to blame for these fires that are happening in Southern Oregon and Northern California. And it is climate change, but it is not global warming. It is not, it's not carbon emissions. It's not any of these things. It is completely because we are drying California out. We are drying Oregon out, and we are taking and using that fresh water directly to keep fresh water in the cities. And we should be getting that fresh water from thorium reactors from the Pacific Ocean and desalinating with steam turbines powered by the thorium reactors. Walk-away safe nuclear technology that would basically be free over the long haul if we built modular reactors and put a little bit of elbow grease into developing that technology. It's much safer, much saner than what we're using now. And it's just really kind of crazy that we're still building uranium reactors and still operating uranium solid fuel reactors, which are insanely dangerous type technology. And I mean, we already have all the evidence we need to know that solid fuel uranium reactors are extremely dangerous. But thorium reactors would be incredibly safe, and then we could have infinite fresh water that we could pull directly from the Pacific Ocean. And at that point, we would be able to, hydrate California and hydrate Oregon and stop these forest fires, fight these forest fires, and even perhaps make the entire region much more lush and green and temperate for everybody living here, us and the animals as well. I can only imagine what the climate was like when Owens Lake was full, a couple hundred years ago before we started pumping all the water out to LA. But I imagine that region was much cooler. I imagine that the desert was much less harsh than it is now. And I imagine that, I know for a fact that there was much better agriculture at that time because we have records of agriculture being really phenomenal in Owens Valley. Owens Valley almost being like Central Valley with its agricultural potential. And that was, of course, all ruined when we took all that fresh water and pumped it straight to LA with the aqueduct in the Department of Water and Power. So we have solutions here, but we have to look at the actual facts and we have to look at what's possible. And right now we're not really doing it. So, all right, that's it for this little lecture, fam.